I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure products company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.
You are listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Hello, everyone.
Meow, 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 meow.
You're speaking cat language. You have a puppy on your lap.
I know, but it sounds better than woofing.
Did you ever know that you can meow to everything? Every song, if you never know the words, you can meow.
Now we do.
Right.
Meow we do.
Meow we do. It works. Try it. I do it all the time. So this episode, everyone, as you probably know from the title, is on affairs, infidelity, cheating with Dr. Tammy Nelson. No, it's not here to condone doing the affair, cheating, all that, etc. And we're also not shaming people for it. We're bringing to light why it happens, what you can do if it does happen, what the inspiration is, what is the new monogamy, what does monogamy even mean in this modern day world. So lots of really interesting information if you've ever cheated, been cheated on, or if you ever plan on being in a relationship. Probably good things to know.
Honestly, I feel that the stats for cheating is probably way higher. We talk about
than
it a
what
little
was
bit.
reported. Yeah.
Right. And obviously you've cheated, you've been cheated on. I have cheated. Don't know if I've been cheated on. It's a possibility.
Wait, what are you betting? There's like an 80% chance that you have.
I don't know.
Probably not with your ex-husband.
I don't think my ex-husband, I don't think my that first long-term boyfriend I had either. Oh, I have been cheated on. Duh. The guy that I lost my virginity, or I don't want to say
you lost it.
My lost it.
It's gone.
It's gone.
I lost. I can't find it.
He has my V card. That guy did cheat on me. So I actually beg to differ from my statement on the recording of the show.
She has been cheated on now.
I have been. I remember. I just tried to block that out.
Apparently it didn't affect you, or maybe it did, but no, it did.
He gave me many gifts that keep on giving.
Oh God, fuck that guy. Okay. I remember you telling me stories about him. I've never met him, and I was like, I want to kill him.
Yeah, I know.
We got very protective over you, my little chip.
Oh, for sure.
So very interesting episode.
This is actually one of those episodes where I know we'll get some reactions out of folks, because even when on our Instagram, when we did that contest on our Instagram account with the outing some of our most shameful / our
having women or female identified folks.
Yes. I said on my sign that I had cheated, and it raised some eyebrows. And I feel like this episode, it goes deeper into affairs and cheating in a way that is constructive and helpful, and it can help you repair and also kind of look at it maybe from a different angle and redefine some of your ways that perhaps you're stuck in your relationship.
Yeah, she's not saying, oh yeah, go ahead and cheat. She clearly says cheating is wrong, but it's not cheating that's wrong. She's saying that, and we don't like to say that anything's wrong, but she says that, but she's speaking to the dishonesty part. She's like, it's not about cheating.
No.
It's about dishonesty. It's about breaking contracts that our bodies actually know when we go against something and we're out of integrity. We can feel it in our bodies, and a lot of people are still choosing it and overriding it. And here's why, and here's what you can do to make different choices or to repair if it does happen. So very insightful. We will get there soon. We'll be reading you a bio. Stay tuned. Okay, so April and I've shared this on past episodes, but now April has also had her own Yoni vulva mapping session.
I did.
How was that?
Which it's so funny.
Did you laugh like ha funny?
Because, well, Dolly, who has been on our show, she really did an incredible job of helping me feel comfortable and really tuned in. And I was a little nervous, I have to tell you.
We have a stranger touching your yoni.
Right. But the good news is that it's a therapy session. So she really went in, and everything is consented before. There's everything's talked about before and during. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden she's touching my clitoris. You know?
She's very careful to get consent for everything, to do a lot of touch and grounding all over the body before even going near the yoni. It doesn't go near the yoni until she has permission.
No, she kind of touches your body first, like just kind of like a massage before you're getting a massage. I loved you and I comparing our notes though.
They're
after.
so different. Yeah.
Oh my God. So Amy and I had discovered that our bodies are pretty much opposite, especially our genitals. And I am designed, she's like, you're DTF, aren't you? And I was like, I am. I'm always down to fuck. She's like, your anatomy says so. The way that my urethra is placed, it's up inside of my, like right inside my vaginal canal. I can't remember the name of the actual opening part. And that is really close to where my G crest is. And then my perineum is super tiny, which is why I like anal / penetration while I have hands on the vulva. So that helps tap my G-spot from behind because of the way my anatomy is. And she also noticed that I was probably able to ejaculate, which is true.
Yep.
Unless you listen to the podcast.
She spied on you.
Or she's psychic. Anyway, I learned so much. And you know, in retrospect, going back and talking to folks openly after the session, I had a lot of questions come up from friends that were very curious and also almost in a way that were like, why do you need that? Were you raped? Someone asked me and I was like,
interesting. They outright asked you that?
They asked me that because they were confused as to what purpose that would serve. And so I kind of explained it's definitely for trauma and childbirth.
And learning.
Yeah. And I said, it's definitely for like childbirth could be trauma. Yeah. She's a mom, you know, and I was like, your bits change after a lot of things with age too. Maybe you fell on a bicycle seat when you were 7. I don't know. I tore my labia. So I learned a lot about that. And she used the castor oil, which was really cool because she massaged a bit of that traumatic.
The tissue that had been
torn. And there was an actual ball that was released because she just rubbed and spent time and energy and kind of rubbed that. And I was avoidant of that area. I never tapped into that area. That was really, really liberating and released something in me. And I felt so great afterward and I felt more in tune. And she also gave some great tips on some of the things that you can do to, what does she say? The reparations in healing.
Oh my God, there's a specific word for remediation.
Yeah. I was thinking reparations. However, it's a remedy for you. Remedy for your yoni.
Yeah. And this isn't just yoni too. This happens for anal. She does anal mapping. They do
penis mapping. Right. Yeah. And then you also had a session like a couple hours before me.
I had one with her, and then I've been doing sessions also in the Bay Area because Dolly's down in LA. So if you want to learn more, if you live down in LA, San Diego area, and you want to do sessions with Dolly, go to pleasuremuse.com, or you can look up our recent episode on vulva mapping and learn more about Dolly. And she also does online sessions, although you don't get the hands-on part. And this is sexological bodywork. This is legal. This is not erotic massage. This is not someone diddling you till you have an orgasm. This is for learning and healing. And for me, Dolly said, because she looked at your bits and she's like, oh, you're DTF. You're down to fuck, right? For me, she looked at mine. She's like, wow, your clitoris is like its own little world. and because my clitoris is higher, is high. It's not like super close to, I mean, it's not far away either to the labia. I like my pussy. I think my pussy's beautiful. My clitoris is a little bit higher and has a big hood around it, and it's very shy to come out. Like there's a big hood around it. So for the head to just kind of pop out, I usually have to pull the hood back. I think if I was born with a penis, I'd probably have a big foreskin or something.
Oh,
maybe.
yeah. Mine's just twinkling out.
Mine's not twinkling out. Mine comes out, but it takes a long time. It's like a little snake they need to charm for a long time. You got to charm that snake. And so what she noticed for me, I have a Bartholin's gland cyst, and the Bartholin glands, I've had this since I was 25. They're the glands are internal, but you can kind of feel this bulb on each side if you have a cyst that are responsible for that very silky velvety vaginal fluid that you get when you're aroused. I have been getting cysts, and sometimes they've turned into abscesses on both sides. Absci? I don't know how to say abscesses.
Abscessi. I think it's abscesses.
And that have been an issue, but one of them has always been blocked and has fluid, and it has been for years. So I don't really get a lot of that velvety fluid anymore. So she did the castor oil and spent a lot of time externally rubbing the cyst and felt it actually go down. And then went internally too on the other side of the cyst and was using the castor oil, massaging it. And she even said that there was this tissue, like when she was touching certain spots, because she's using the clock system, she was touching certain spots. She felt there was like this ropey texture there.
At 9 o'clock?
Mine is at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So if the bottom is 6 and the top is 12.
Right.
At the
I
sides.
had some at 7 o'clock. I had some things.
And there's some burning sensation there. And and there was this ropey texture. So she was using the castor oil to massage it. By the way, everyone, so castor oil is something you can buy at health food stores or online. It has anti-inflammatory purposes. It is anti-inflammatory. So it's really good for this kind of massage because it can pull out the inflammation. But they say don't use it as a lubricant. It gets really sticky. So this is for your own practice, or if you go and have work with a sexological bodyworker.
It's very thick too. It's thick, yeah. So it's not necessarily the best for sex. And you know the best lube.
The best lube for sex is Uber Lube, as you all have heard us say before. So not castor oil. Uber Lube, unlike castor oil, where castor oil gets sticky, Uber Lube does not get sticky. It's long lasting. It's very velvety and silky, almost powdery, but it's liquid. It has no flavor. It has no scent. It's super body friendly. I think Uber Lube has in the US alone like over 500 doctors and gynecologists on board that are recommending it because people are having less reactions from that than with other lubricants that can cause rashes and things. So it is incredible. And it's good for all types of sex, no matter what you're doing, vaginal, anal, oral. We absolutely love it. And another distinction between Uber Lube and other lubricants is you actually want it all over your body. I put it on my cuticles when they're dry. I put it in my hair to make my hair shiny. We do lots of things. And
it's packaged in a pretty little bottle.
And that's beautiful.
And I'm all about aesthetics. So if you like pretty things,
go check
you'll
it out.
Love Uber Lube.
So go to uberlube.com. You can use coupon code shameless sex in all caps. And you also get free shipping and 10% off. But one other thing I want to say about these sessions. So, because I'm on a mission, everyone, I'm single now. I am a single woman. And part of my singleness is I am on a mission to reclaim my sexuality. Because if you listen to regular episodes, you've heard that it's been kind of turned down or turned low. If my sexuality and my drive and my connection to my body is a dimmer switch, it's been on low. It'll go up to medium sometimes, but it'll go back to low. And it's been that way since I had an abortion and I got pregnant with the IUD and I had a big abandonment thing with my partner, blah, blah, blah. Won't go too deep into that. But I'm on a fucking mission. So I had this session with Dolly. I took her workshop. She just taught at Pure Pleasure, where we do sex ed classes at Pure Pleasure Shop. And then I'm doing at least 3 sessions with River up here in the Bay Area. And so You've
already had 2 with River?
I've already had 2 with River.
So you have 1 more.
And we're building it up. With River in the first one, we didn't even get to internal stuff. It was all external. The second session that I just did with River, which is so interesting, it was 3 or 4 days after the session with Dolly. It was kind of just adding on to that. But I had this powerful experience with River where, again, we're kind of playing with the areas, not playing, but exploring the areas where there was pain, where is there pleasure. I kept feeling my G-spot just getting so engorged, like I was going to squirt, noticing that there is so much pleasure in me. But again, I have this big wall there because I'm in this story of pain, uncomfortable. I'm also learning, I didn't know this, and this is why these experiences are great for learning. I'm learning that when I'm penetrated, it doesn't feel good to me if I'm penetrated with the pressure being on the base of my vulva or my vaginal canal. It feels good to me when it's on the top wall, like closer to the belly button. So if you're going to put a finger in me, you would put it in and kind of curl it up as opposed to press it down. And the same thing would go for dildos or penises. Less emphasis on the downward part because that's where I have some discomfort. It's unknown why that's there.
Note to any cis men that are
trying
dating
to bang me. And I also saw in this recent session, I saw how much sex, like I don't have compliant sex. But I've been tolerating a lot. My whole fucking sex life. And I've had a lot of great sex where I haven't been tolerating, but I've had a ton of sex where I'm tolerating touch that doesn't feel great. and I'm not saying anything because I either don't know what I want, I don't want to be too much, blah, 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 all that stuff. When it's painful, I speak to it, of course. But I'm also, there's like different levels. There's compliance sex where you're not speaking to what actually really does not feel good and is painful. There's tolerating just what doesn't feel great, but you're just dealing with it. And then there's fucking great sex because you're speaking to it and literally following the thread of what feels good. So I saw that and I committed to myself in this session with River. I said, I am not going to tolerate any touch that does not feel great anymore. I felt my body fully commit to that. When I said that in the session, they had their finger inside, curled up and in on my G-spot. They're just holding there. They weren't even moving it. And I was following the thread of what my body wanted. So I was speaking to it. I was like, just keep your finger there. All of a sudden, I felt all this emotion come up to my face and just started bawling, crying.
Nice.
Just like big
I mean, they let
tears.
it out. That
let
was
it out. Holding around my G-spot.
Wow.
It was so powerful.
That's powerful.
And I don't have the stories of what it's related to, but I felt just such this release, and I'm learning so much about my body, and I have another session with them. So everyone go and check out it's Sexological Bodywork. Go check out also River. You can go check out River's website. If you're in the Bay Area, especially, so anywhere in Northern California, go to River Drosera. That's DROSERA.life. You can do in-person sessions with River. They also work online as well. But this has been life-changing for me and for April as well.
I have to do one last, or give one last share that Dolly shared with me. BV hack.
Oh, yeah.
Wheatgrass shot in your Yoni will actually, if you do, I think she mentioned maybe a week's worth of just an ounce of wheatgrass. Take a syringe and use that up in your vagina. And that will eliminate BV. And she was talking about I think it was some sort of natural homeopathic convention or something. And this woman had a yeast infection for 2 years that even
wouldn't go away.
Yeah, that even
antibiotics and all this stuff.
Nothing would help. And this particular person used wheatgrass and hasn't had a yeast infection in like 5 years.
Wow.
So
FDA does not recommend this, not approve this endorsement.
It's only the cost of a wheatgrass shot.
That's true. They like money.
If you don't know what wheatgrass is, if you're in an area of the country where you don't have access to like a fresh juice bar, it does need to be fresh. So I think you might be able to go chop down some grass outside. I don't know. Just Google maybe how you can get it, because I think they'll ship it to you.
It's not normal grass, everyone.
No, and then you can put it in like
chop down some grass outside.
No, don't chop out grass. I was joking. But I think you can order it online, and then I believe, because it needs to be fresh, I believe you could what's that, magic bullet it.
Oh yeah, when you're a little blender.
Yeah. So and
we're not endorsed by Magic Bullet either.
No, but I mean, I feel like most people have those.
They're cheap.
Anyway, I just wanted a life hack share with folks because I thought that was good.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wheatgrass in my pussy. All
right, and then I guess your cum is green for a couple days, which I thought was so cool.
I bet.
And you taste very fresh.
You're like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Or Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Both very cool.
You all ready for a sex question? This sex question we really felt like we needed to answer because actually I'm going to say, damn it. I just totally gave that away. It's fine. The person put please help in all caps in the subject. Now everyone's going to do that. But we're going to answer this because this actually this correlates to what we just shared about the work with sexological body workers. This person is in Australia. I'm not giving away their name, but there are sexological body workers in Australia. So that's one thing I will say to this person or anyone who can relate to this, who has had sexual trauma, who feels disconnected from their body. So that goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. But here's a sex question from anonymous female identified human. When I was 16, I was involved in an incident of sexual assault from my uncle. And although I feel okay about it now, I wonder how much of it had an effect on how I am today. I've also had experiences of non-consensual touching and assault from people who I previously considered my friends. Since pretty much the beginning of my sex life with my current partner, I have noticed I am incredibly uncomfortable with sex and all things to do with it. If I'm drunk or have smoked a little bit of weed, then I have more luck in feeling sexy and having the desire to have sex, but otherwise I really struggle to feel turned on and desire these activities. We still have sex though, and I find myself very stuck in my head, and sometimes it's good, but other times I'm just counting the seconds until it's over, which I'm just talking about that compliance sex. I've tried to discover myself, but nothing seems to help. As I'm getting older, I'm realizing how badly I just want to feel connected to my body and to experience wholesome, connected sex with my partner. So basically, my questions are, how can I get connected to myself again? How can I learn to relax and get connected with my partner? How can I orgasm? How can I work out what's causing, or if it's my past trauma, what that's causing my sexual disconnect? Lots of questions there.
Lots of questions, yeah. But I think they're all kind of
related,
flowing into each other. They're all sort of related on some level.
And we just commented on a big piece, so we won't go too deep into what we already shared, but the body keeps the score. That's the name of a book, wonderful book, meaning it holds trauma in it. This person has had sexual trauma and now they're having a hard time being connected to their bodies and in their heads, and they're having, on top of that, their body's already experienced trauma where their body wasn't treated like it was worthy or valued in what it actually wanted, and now they're having compliant sex with someone. They're still having sex with them and counting the minutes till it's over, meaning they're still having touch and sex that is not what they want. They're still not listening to their body, and that's probably, and I'm not saying this is your fault at all, because that's what happens when you're either cultured to be a caretaker, a people pleaser, or you have trauma that told you your body wasn't worthy and you continue to do it. My first advice would be, other than what we talked about before, try to find someone to work with, a sexological body worker, but also stop having compliant and tolerant sex. The minute you feel your body says, ouch, or this doesn't feel good, or this is uncomfortable, or I'm getting a no, you honor that every single time.
It seems like this person is connecting a lot to their shame, and that's a lot of the pieces. And I think that getting a shame ally, like we've talked about before, and actually
talking to people about it.
Get some therapy.
The right people.
Brene Brown as well. Read Men, Women, and Worthiness. That's a great one to kind of get in tune with the shame that you're feeling, that you're probably feeling. I just wanted to add that piece.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought that was a good segue into that.
No, I think that's really helpful. And how can I? Yes, it's hard to connect to yourself when you have sexual trauma. Easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
So this might not be work for you to do on your own. Again, that's why we recommend trying to work with someone. But also with your partner, you have a partner here. Let them know that you're making this strong commitment to yourself to not tolerate or have compliant sex, and that in that you two need to have an agreement where you can feel safe enough to always speak to when something doesn't feel good, when you're wanting more of something, when you're wanting less of something. Because every time you have compliant sex, you're reminding your body that it's not worthy of what it really wants. So that's one thing. Another thing is sex. When you had that trauma, sex became not yours or for you. That's what happens with trauma. So reclaim sex as yours. Easier said than done. Also, by making that powerful commitment, and maybe, honestly, this is going to be like pretty radical, but I've thought about this for myself on this journey. Maybe committing not to have penetrative sex for a while and only commit to having very slow, consensual touch. That is kind of what we did in sexological bodywork sessions with people, where your partner's touching you or you're touching yourself slowly and constantly checking in and only getting consent before putting a hand on the vulva, before putting a finger inside, moving slowly and checking in with yourself. And making sex yours again through that practice, and then working your way up to maybe making penetrative sex yours. Which it's a powerful choice, and it's hard. A lot of partners might have a hard time with that, but really,
maybe they will be supportive in this case.
Well, at the end result, they're going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Everyone will win, but sex is not yours right now. And there's something in here where you need to reclaim it as yours, or you don't need to, but it sounds like you want to.
Yeah.
And part of that is kind of like what Tammy Nelson says in this podcast that we just did, rewriting the contract. And Tammy's talking about relationships. So maybe you need to rewrite the contract with yourself about what sex is. Is sex for me? And what does that mean? How do I make sex for me? And what does that look like because I'm in a partnership? How does that show up here? And so that all relates to this other thing. How do I relax and stay connected to my body?
Experiential touch and discovery without penetration.
And no pressure.
And no pressure, where it's journey based, not destination oriented.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
It's about the journey and discovery. And you know what? It's going to bring you and your partner that much closer. It's probably going to increase your intimacy, which is beautiful in the process.
Yeah.
If they are tuned into your journey, that's also going to maybe help them with theirs, and building this closeness that you've never really probably experienced before this.
Yeah. And it's, again, there are people out there that can support you. If you can't find a sexological body worker, you can work with sex coaches, sex therapists. But I suggest if you have this is severe trauma this person has, don't try to do it all on your own.
There must be sexological body workers.
There are.
Workers in Australia.
There totally are.
Perfect. Check them out.
Yeah. If you go to, I think it's sexologicalbodywork.org, but go look up sexological bodywork and you can find someone there. And then if not, though, find a sex coach, find a therapist, find someone, and really make a strong commitment to yourself to making sex for you and not having compliant or tolerant sex, only having touch that feels good. And when it doesn't, you stop.
And to help you be guided through the journey of touch, check out OMGS. And it honestly is one of the best tools out there. That isn't a book. It's research-based. It's interactive. It's online. So you can have it anywhere you are. And your partner, you can watch it. You can watch it. And you can use it for self-discovery. That's exciting. It's going to give you additional tools that you've probably not even known have existed before. I'm using it for myself during this. Well, right now we're in May and we're doing this 30-day May masturbation challenge. And I've been using it to discover new parts of me, OMGS, from other people's experiences, not even knowing that I could do certain things, swirling and not flicking, but I wanted to say edgy. Yeah, there's so many different ways to play. So omgs.com/shameless will give you $5 off, and it's so affordable. So check it out.
Yep. It's been a life changer. And again, I understand it's hard when you're like, I don't even know what my body likes. What do I do? OMGS can give you some guidance. Same as sexological body work. I'm 34 and I'm still learning what my body likes.
Almost 37. And that's the thing. And people always think I'm an expert of some sort. And I'm like, hell no, I'm learning.
That's why I'm in this field. I don't get this thing.
I know.
Like, what is this body of mine? This thing, it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this though? It's complicated.
I have a PhD in masturbation though.
Do you?
No.
Oh, because
I'm working on it.
Sex with your bear when you were a child.
Oh, my bear.
Which I wish I masturbated when I was little, because I think that it would make things a lot easier now. I would have a better understanding. I'm like, when you're younger, just like learning a new language, when you learn when you're younger, it sticks. And then when you're older, it's a lot harder for that to stick. So the instrument.
This is why I'm so proud of my dog,
instrument.
for instance, because he's humping everything right now. And I'm like, you're my boy. That's my boy.
Yeah, you're not shaming.
Yeah, no,
That's
I'm not
cute.
shaming him. I'm like, I'm like, that's my boy.
People do shame animals for humping. Oh my God.
No.
Our friend, who I won't name, but they had a dog. The dog's name was Carl. I can say the dog's name.
Oh, yeah.
And Carl would hump everyone that walked in the door, and they would call it giving a hug. Oh, Carl's hugging you.
Sweet.
It's not consensual. Sorry, Carl, I'm shaming you. Okay, so I'm about to read the bio to you all. Before I do that, we have one last thing to talk about. So I've been using this often. This has been a game changer for me. It's called OpenFit. We've talked about it before.
So good.
April and I are super busy people. We like to exercise and keep our bodies nice and healthy and strong. And sometimes I literally only have 10 or 15 minutes. I'm really bad at motivating myself to be a badass in that 10 or 15 minutes. OpenFit has a app online that you can use, and you can use it anywhere. They have workouts that are everywhere from 10 minutes to 20 minutes to half an hour. They have yoga. They have HIIT. It's HIIT or HIIT.
You sweat like a boss on HIIT.
Oh my
it's
God,
so
it
good.
kicks my ass. I'm more sore from that than other workouts. So OpenFit has changed the way that we work out on Shameless Sex Podcast, and with code SS Podcast, you can join us on a fitness journey personalized just for you. Again, use our code SS Podcast and start using OpenFit for a healthier journey, a healthier life. So right now they have a 30-day challenge, and our listeners get a special extended 30-day free membership on OpenFit, where you can get fit and feel healthy and strong on your own motherfucking time when you text SS Podcast. April's getting a phone call to 303030. That's 303030. She's smacking the phone now. You will get full access to OpenFit and all the workouts and nutrition information. It's totally free, not the app, but all the nutrition and information on there. Again, just text SS Podcast to 303030. That's 3030.
Last thing I'll add, it's so much cheaper than a gym membership and just as effective.
I forgot a 30. 30.
30 people. 30
something
30
feels wrong. All right. Anyways, that's the end of that. Let's
Should we bio time?
Let's bio. It's bio. Have you heard the term bio break? It's also known as peeing. All right. It's like I've said that before, and people who are not from California.
Bio break?
Yes, you've never heard it either. Bio break. It's very.
Did you just make this up?
No, it's a Californian. I think it's like a West Coast term. Like I'm gonna go take a bio break, and so then like, are you peeing? Are you pooping? It's bio.
I mean, I drop something on the floor and then eat it, and I'm like, healthy microbiome.
All right, that's close. All right, talking about eating and pooping at the same time. All right, everyone, let's dive into this bio. On that note, Dr. Tammy Nelson, PhD, is an internationally acclaimed psychotherapist and TEDx speaker and the author of several books, including Getting the Sex You Want, The New Monogamy, and her latest book, When You're the One Who Cheats. She has been featured expert in New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, CNN, Rolling Stone magazine, Time, and a source in Time magazine. She writes for Huffington Post, ThriveGlobal, Medium, and has a new podcast, The Trouble with Sex. Wow, I did not know she had a podcast. Did we talk to her about that?
I actually asked her, I was like, do you ever listen to podcasts?
Oh my God. What a dummy.
Oh, damn it.
Dr. Tammy is a board-certified sexologist, a certified sex therapist, and a certified relationship therapist, and she can be found at drtammynelson.com. That's DRTAMMY Nelson.com. Are you ready, Chip?
I'm ready, meow.
Here we go. All right, everyone. As promised, it is episode time. This episode, you already heard the bio with Dr. Tammy Nelson, PhD. And this was a recommendation that we got via Wednesday Martin. If you've heard the episode that we did with Wednesday, I think it's called Untrue, and her book is called Untrue. And it talks a lot about the science behind monogamy and all the myths around it, especially when it comes to female sexuality. And so we're super excited to have you on here, Tammy Nelson. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Can you tell our listeners, we always love opening with this question, because obviously there's probably a story about how you got to where you are today, why you're doing this particular work. How did you get to write the book, The New Monogamy? I know you have other books too, When You're the One That Cheats. How did you get on this path?
Well, I've been a couples therapist probably, I don't know, longer than you guys have been alive, probably. I don't know, so long feels like. And I was a couples therapist before I was a sex therapist. And what I found was that, in all the trainings that I did and all the degrees I got, nobody ever talked about sex, which I thought was so fascinating, because we're not working with people who are just roommates, who are, just living together, or companions, or whatever. We're talking about people who are drawn to each other for romantic and erotic reasons. But, people who seek couples therapy sometimes aren't really looking to talk about sex initially. They might be coming in to talk about, like, who's going to take out the garbage and all the natural stuff that people fight about, all the conflicts. But really underneath, most people want to be more passionate, more alive, more connected. They want more depth. So there's really two parts of a relationship. There's companionship and there's eroticism. And most people don't come to therapy to be better companions or to be better roommates. They want more aliveness. And so I became a sex therapist, and I started training other therapists to be sex therapists. And then I realized that sometimes sex therapists don't do good couples therapy. And not everybody comes to sex therapy either, just to work on sex. So sometimes they come to work on what I call sort of the trauma in their erotic lives. And the trauma is a lot of times betrayal and affairs and monogamy stuff. And so that's what a lot of what's going on in our culture today is trying to figure that out. Like, how do we do it?
So can you tell us, what is the new monogamy then? What does that mean? I understand it's probably something about the diversity and how people define their relationship and what monogamy is and cheating and infidelity. But what is the kind of the premise of your book?
Well, the new monogamy was really written to redefine your relationship after some kind of a betrayal, but it also has this piece around creating new monogamy agreements. And so it's really a way to create a relationship that works. Like, I'm not a judge of anybody. However you want to do your relationship is fine. What I feel like is missing is a way to talk about your relationship agreement. So there's so much implicit assumptions around monogamy. Even now, where so many people want open relationships or ethical non-monogamy or polyamory, there's assumptions even around that, like what it means to be cool and hip and what it means now to be traditional and maybe not so hip. And all those things are so implicit and so difficult to talk about. And I think there's some also assumptions around whether or not we are biologically meant to be monogamous and what that decision is supposed to look like. I think monogamy, or your version of monogamy, is not something you decide once. I think it's something you decide every day. You know, you don't just wake up and say, today I am monogamous or not monogamous. You wake up and say, how are we going to do this today? How's this going to work out? Because it's hard. Relationships are hard. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that the central piece of all of this is about telling the truth. That's the one thing across the board for everyone, for all relationships, that keeps us all honest. Like, that's true north for everyone, is telling the truth. Because telling the truth is what intimacy is, right? Like, that's the hardest part. That's what makes relationships so miserable. Because intimacy is telling the truth.
And there's no perfect relationship. I mean, come on. If when people are like, I have a perfect partner, we never fight. I am definitely, internalizing you're lying or something's up. But I think,
or they never talk.
Yeah. And there's this whole theory on relationships, which I thought was really beautiful, that relationships are harmony, disharmony, and then like reconciliation or reharmonizing. It's never just linear. It's very multi-tiered with different facets, and people change from day to day, week to week, month to month. So I know, not to bring it to me, I did have an affair, and I know the reasons why I strayed from my partner when I was married. And I'm sure for the listeners out there that have followed us for a long time, they know some of those reasons. What do you think, though, are some of the main reasons people do stray from their partners and have these affairs?
I think there's as many reasons that people cheat as there are people, but I think they fall into categories. Like, I think some people cheat for what I call can opener affairs. Like, they cheat to get out of their marriage. And sometimes they don't even know they're doing it until, like, suddenly they realize, oh, I didn't even know I wanted out. And then now it's sort of like a swing from branch to branch thing. It's like a nonverbal way to realize that you want something different. And some people cheat to stay in their marriage. It's a way to have everything that they need without ending a relationship where maybe they've invested or they have kids, or it's a way to have everything they want without perhaps hurting their partner by ending it, or hurting their partner by telling them, or, there's some integrity for some people in having an affair. And, even for people that cheat, the idea of telling the truth, sometimes they're telling the truth to their affair partner, sometimes they're telling the truth just to themselves, sometimes they're telling the truth to their married partner or their committed partner. I think we judge a lot around affairs because we have connected this idea of monogamy with morality. Mm-hmm. And that has been based on marriage. That is a structure that we created 200 years ago when we lived to be like 38. Mm-hmm. And, back then you could live with anyone because by the time you got bored, you were dead. And so it was easy.
Life was over.
I like that.
Yeah.
One of my questions was going to be, what do you say to because you said you just linked it to this idea that it's related to morality. And a lot of that to me seems like kind of related to the Bible and to some rules and laws that some men may have made about women's bodies and what marriage should be as a means of ownership. So to the folks because I've heard a number of people, I've had female friends say to me they think cheating is wrong. I've cheated before in my own justified way, like, oh, it wasn't penetrative sex, so it's okay. We just made out. And my relationship wasn't doing well anyway, so blah, 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 all my stuff. I know. So what would you say to the people that say cheating is wrong? How would your response be to them?
Well, of course, cheating is wrong. we know it when we do it. We're not saying, oh yeah, this is the right thing to do. I mean, we might have justifications. We know when we cross that monogamy agreement, it doesn't happen by accident. We know when we do it that if we make a promise and then we break the promise, that we shouldn't do it. But like you said, we also know that we made a promise and implicitly we assume that our marriage would work well, or that our relationship would go well, or that we'd be happy. We have these implicit assumptions that I promise to love and honor you and be happy. And so when we're not happy, then we have an affair, then somehow feels like we're not necessarily breaking a rule, because it's not that we're faithful to another person, it's that we're faithful to the agreement that we made. Mm-hmm. And so when we break the agreement, it feels different because it feels like it makes sense to us to justify our behavior. It's not okay to lie. Cheating is based on dishonesty. And so the problem is not the cheating. The problem is not the sex. It's not about that. It's about the integrity that it brings up for everybody. Like, all of us have a belief about ourselves and who we are as a person. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to hurt my partner today. I mean, if they do, then that's a different podcast altogether. And they should get help right away.
Yeah. A lot of times I think that people seek these affairs because they're lacking attention in their relationship. It becomes almost a partnership when you have children involved, or your busy schedule. It becomes this managerial type of relationship where it's kind of logistics, right? Who's picking up the kids today? And the attention is lacking. You're having these interesting conversations with perhaps the person that you're having an affair with. They're asking you questions about who you are. You're getting to know each other, and then sex is a part of it. I mean, is an affair just considered when there's penetrative sex, or is it just kissing, or is it? I mean, I didn't have sex in my affair. I had other things. I still considered it an affair. And is there a hierarchy to affairs? I mean, or is it just when you're out of integrity in your relationship and you're exchanging these emotional energy shifts with another person, that's an affair? Just curious what you think.
Well, I think in an affair, we're not necessarily looking for someone else. We're looking to be someone else. Mm-hmm. And so depending on how much you think you can't bring that part of you into your current relationship, then that part becomes disintegrated, becomes dismembered, it becomes compartmentalized, it becomes hidden, and that part of you becomes a secret. And so it's that dishonesty then becomes a lie. It's not private. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy. So when you feel like you have to lie to your partner about who you are outside of the relationship, then you're not living in integrity, because integrity is the integration, the remembering, the being able to open all those compartments and say, look, this is who I am. I like this kind of sex. I want this kind of attention. It takes 4 things to be in a relationship: time, attention, affection, and sex. So like you said, sometimes you need more attention from someone else, or more affection, or you do it for sex, or regardless, we all sort of need different things. Like your partner might need more of this and you need a little more of that. And sometimes you might search for it outside the relationship, but even that's not the issue. The issue is, can you live in integrity with yourself and with your partner? And if you can't, that's the problem, because that dishonesty is the thing that eats away at you.
Do you think affairs are more of a Western adventure for folks, or is it more common in the U.S.? It's probably hard to gauge statistically, but from culture to culture, are affairs more common when there's this partnership that's not maybe arranged, or where there's, I don't know, like biblical terms when people are getting married because they love each other? I don't know. What do you think? Culture to culture, is it different? People
Well, I mean,
have more affairs?
some people say, they sort of generalize about different, Italians or French people, but nobody likes to be lied to. I mean, that's just reality. Like, we all have our different ways of structuring relationships and marriage, but they're all based on how we view honesty. Like, how honest do you want to be with your partner, and what does honesty look like? I have some friends who are therapists in like South America, Venezuela, who say, "Oh my God, you Americans are so honest with each other. Like, why would you ever tell each other all this stuff in therapy? Like, that's not good therapy." So they sort of have this opposite feeling that I do. Like, I don't think you have to tell your partner everything, but I think you have to decide in your agreement, what are you going to tell each other? And that's the important part. I don't care what you tell each other, but you should decide what you're going to tell each other. So are you going to tell each other every time you masturbate in the shower, or every time you have a new Instagram friend, or every time you're hot for the guy in the checkout line? Like, I think you have to agree on those things.
So it sounds like the kind of the premise of your book, or what you're saying is the new monogamy is that it's inviting people day by day to almost like rewrite the contract of their agreement, and that it's different from relationship to person. There's not one way to do it, and so you get to define what that is. So maybe monogamy for some people is that they still get to go out and flirt with people, and then maybe that changes a week later. Now that's not part of our arrangement. That's kind of in alignment?
That's exactly right. I think that monogamy is different for everybody now. Mm-hmm. So it's not, I don't even like the term non-monogamy, because it's like, makes it sound negative. Like it's the opposite of something, or that suddenly makes monogamy like a negative thing, and non-monogamy is a positive thing. And non-monogamy now is too wide of an option. Like,
what about monogamish?
Monogamish was created by Dan Savage to describe, how gay men are having open sexual behaviors, but emotionally monogamous. I think you have to create your own definition of it. If I could come up with a better word for it, I totally would. But I think that this whole idea, monogamous. I like that, actually. That's actually very clever.
I'm monogamous. I can't say it.
I'm monogamous.
And that goes in alignment with our podcast, Shameless Sex. The premise of our podcast really is inviting people to make their own rules. And we encounter so many folks who are stuck because they're living by society's standards of what they think they should be, or what their partner's standards. Mm-hmm. And it creates this internal dilemma and confusion, because they think they're broken, or there's something wrong with them. And instead of really listening to, I actually have different feelings than what is the standard. And I'm also forgetting that things are constantly changing, and our idea of monogamy and relationship right now is entirely different here than it was 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago. But because it's what is here now, people seem to think that is the absolute truth everywhere. And
right.
And I think, to speaking to what you're saying about people, it's about the dishonesty. I think I would imagine that if you go to other cultures where they have a different standard for monogamy, I don't know if this is true, but they say, like the French, it's, you find out that your partner cheated on you. It's not as big of a deal as you find out if a partner cheated on you in the US, generally speaking, is what I have heard. I'm sure that applies to plenty of other cultures too. Because it's a social standard, and I don't know if that's necessarily true for the French, but I'm assuming and I know that is true. That I remember Wednesday Martin talking about different tribes, and maybe she had learned this from you. Actually, I'm not sure, where it was completely normal for you to have sex with the other members of the tribe, and so there was no idea of this there was no room for dishonesty, because it was the normal standard. But it's different. It's just, I think people forget that it's all based on context, time, culture, etc.
Well, and it's totally normal to have sex with other people in this country, in this monogamy agreement, in your relationship, if it's something that you talked about, where going out for coffee with someone might feel like a total betrayal. Because, you can be in a polyamorous relationship and have 15 extra partners, and you can all have sex in the same room and sex separately and on different nights. And I don't know how people do it with their calendars, to be honest. That's the thing that freaks me out. But, because time is my issue, but the emotional connection to someone over a cup of coffee, if it's not negotiated, if it's not talked about, that's the problem. So when people want open relationships, the open part starts with open conversations, being able to really openly talk about, well, I wanted that last week, but now I have a kid. So I'm, my agreement, my understanding of what I need from you, what I want is different. And we have to be able to talk about that. No one really teaches you how to talk about that stuff.
That's what you're doing right now.
Yes. It's my life's mission. Tell the truth. How do you do it?
And I guess for me, there was no hope to save my my marriage. What you had mentioned about having an affair to get out of your relationship, not even knowing that I was looking for that. That was the reason. And we tried to rebuild afterward. The trust was just so gone. I was constantly being punished, right? And it felt so just heavy and hard on me all the time that I couldn't move forward and try to repair what was so broken. Anyway, that's not my point or my question, because there was no question in there. My question for you is, for folks that do want to rebuild after an infidelity and they want to kind of work on their relationship, is that possible? And how can folks do that?
I think more and more people want to stay together after an affair, unless it's a can opener, unless it's like a way to end a relationship. I think that people don't want to get divorced like the last generation, our parents' generation. There was so much divorce and so much dishonesty. And I think there is a new wave of what I call, the new wave of honesty, like new wave of disclosure, a new wave of transparency. The commitment is based on how transparent you want to be around your technology. Do you want to give passwords? Do you want to share your social media? And that's something new. Like, we've never had to face that before. So that is really the first step, is to decide what is the next wave of our monogamy. Because if you have an affair, frankly, your marriage is over. I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about before. You knew you were cheating. And with all due respect to everyone that does it, I mean, I cheated. A lot of people have cheated, been cheated on. The end of a commitment begins the minute you step over that commitment. And so then you have to change the commitment. You can't go back to the way it was. If you go back, you're just going to end up where you were. And so if you want something different, it has to be different. And you can't go back to, what your parents' monogamy was, or your churches, or your culture, or your friends, or your therapist's definition. It has to be your own definition. So there's three phases. There's the crisis, when everything falls apart, and maybe it needs to. It's an affair is very disruptive. And then there's the second phase, which is like the insight phase, where you have to figure out, okay, how the hell did this happen to me, to us? This was our affair. This happened between us. Like, how did this happen? And then the third phase, which is what you're talking about, which is the vision. Like, how do we create something new that we can both live with, and maybe it'll be better.
What I'm gauging from what you're saying here too is, I heard this, you said this a little bit ago, maybe I'm backtracking, but you use the term open relationship, and I'm understanding, because I haven't actually read the new Monogamy quite yet, so I will be reading it, but I'm understanding that actually the term open relationship can apply to monogamy, right? Because the openness is that communication. So that makes sense. Like, calling open relationships, people think it only applies to when you're having sex with other people or something, but that the truly open relationship is just about that transparency, that honesty, and that continued conversation and negotiation, even within monogamy. I absolutely love that. I have, and then back to what you're saying, I have a number of friends. I've been through all. Have you ever been cheated on before?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Not that she knows of.
Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe that's better for you. Yeah. I've done some cheating. I've been cheated on. What was interesting for me when I had a partner that I found it out 2 years later when we were together. They had cheated on me like 3 different times 2 years before that. They told me all of that. And for me, it was so just old, and I just was able to pay attention to where we are now and understand where we were then, to just be like, well, that's shitty. And okay, yeah, like I understand. I can see where we are now. I can see where we've grown. I can see why you're finally being brave enough to be transparent, and that now we have a stronger commitment. And I've gone through that aspect of being able to see beyond the social constructs of like what the routes I could have gone. Oh, that's wrong. That's bad. Oh my God. Even though that was a century ago, but really at that point, if I really checked in with how I felt, it wasn't personal, and it wasn't, this fresh thing that happened yesterday. There wasn't really much work we need to do around it. But I really like what you're sharing about the 3 phases. So crisis, insight, vision. And I assume maybe vision doesn't, well, no, you get to go through all of them, whether you choose to stay together or not, I assume, right?
Yeah. And I don't think you can decide whether you're going to stay together until you get to the vision place, because you don't decide when you're in a crisis. Mm-hmm. You can't decide if you're going to stay together or break up when you've just been hit by a car. You know what I mean? Like when you're in a crisis and you've been hurt and everything's falling apart and everything's been disrupted, you really don't know if you're going to make it or you want to make it. So I always tell people, you might get triggered and go back to the crisis. You got to go through that insight phase of figuring out how you got here and why before you decide if you want to stay together. Mm-hmm. And, and monogamy is on a continuum. So for some people, are you going to tell each other every time you connect with someone on Facebook, like someone just connected with me? Are you going to tell everyone in your family what happened? Are you going to flirt with people on social media? Are you going to, send sexy pictures of yourself to your ex? Like what is monogamy on that end of the continuum, all the way to what about your work spouse, the person you're like emotionally connected with? Are you going to share all your personal stuff about your relationship with them? What if you spend more time with them? What if you really love and care about them and you're attracted to them, but you don't have sex with them? Like you guys both said, it was just the tip. You know what I mean?
I didn't get a tip. Damn. I missed out on that tip.
So, I mean, like what is really, what constitutes cheating? And then there's people all the way on the other end, or like I said before, are in like open, poly, swinging relationships, but even they have to define really closely what it means. And they actually have a better, research shows they have a better way of communicating and less anxiety around all this stuff.
We didn't ask this before. How common is cheating in affairs in the U.S.? Maybe you don't have the statistics, but I guess because I think a lot of people that either have been cheated on or have cheated, I think I want to say my guess is that they think it's less common than it really is. Do you have an idea of what that looks like? There's a lot of statistics right now. I mean, some people say 50% of all women will cheat at some point in their marriage. Some people say it's anywhere from 25 to 65% of men and women will cheat. The range is really wide because you can't trust what people say to the researchers, because infidelity is based on dishonesty. So people lie to the researchers. Women still minimize their infidelity and men brag about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they want that scarlet letter.
Yeah, women, used to get burned at the stake for this stuff. I mean, there's still countries that can get killed for this, and men like to brag because that makes them sound good.
I think I did read something recently that cheating for women is on the rise, and social media has obviously had a huge influence on people's ability to cheat. I mean, old lovers suddenly surface from Facebook that you haven't seen, but you knew that you were in love with them when you were 16. these kinds of things. And I think that I don't remember the percentage, but I believe that it was a double-digit number that was significant for, especially for women cheating. And also, you're right. It's probably because it's more talked about now, more freely. And back in the 50s, when you were a housewife, you didn't have access to a lot of other people besides maybe the parents of the children.
The postman.
The milkman. Hi.
Right. Well, that's where that came from. That Johnny looked like the postman because that is who they cheated with.
Totally. That's all they had access to, or the gardener. You're like, oh. So I would love to see a legit statistic, but I bet it's nearly impossible because people are lying. Totally. So something to consider. You have another book though coming out. Is it already out?
That's out. Yeah,
it's out. And it's called When You're the One Who Cheats, which sounds really juicy and steamy. Can you talk a little bit about that newest book?
Yeah, so When You're the One Who Cheats, I wrote because all the books that are out about infidelity are always about the person who's been cheated on, and sort of like this victim mentality of trying to recover from infidelity. And I certainly have written that book too, but this book is really geared towards, again, sort of figuring out what is the truth about people who are on the other side. Like, why are people cheating? And helping them to figure out, all right, either you're cheating now, or you are trying to get over your cheating, or you're trying to get out of cheating, or you're trying to figure out why you cheated, or you want to get back with your partner, or you want to decide if you want to stay with the person you're cheating with, or, there's so many difficult emotional places in there. And I also did some really interesting research with Ashley Madison for that book.
Wasn't there... wasn't that a whole thing with Ashley Madison where they had like a whole bunch of fake profiles on there and there was like a whole scandal around it?
Yes. So what they did was they shut everything down. They switched management. They got a whole company to come in and go through all their members and to guarantee that everyone was real. And, you would think that would have shut the whole thing down. You would have think that for any business that said they were hacked and all of their members were sort of blown wide open and their business is bigger than ever. They have 60 million people signed up worldwide for that website.
That's because any press is good press, right? Apparently.
Any press is good press. And so now they have, and the interesting thing about them is that they have just as many men as women now on their site. And just as many women signing up. And so they are a wealth of opportunity if you want to do research for, who's cheating and why. And so they asked me if I would do some consulting for them around infidelity. And, like they asked me, why are people cheating and what are you seeing and what are you seeing in your practice and what happens with these couples? And so we started this conversation and I said, if I'm going to write this book, is everything okay?
Yeah.
I said, if I'm going to write this book, I asked them if they would give me a profile, one as a man and one as a woman. And so I went on as if I was looking for an affair, but I didn't have the capacity to contact anyone or talk to anyone. I didn't put up a picture or any descriptions of me. I just wanted to see what would happen. And when I was a woman, all the men that contacted me looking for an affair, they were all looking for a relationship. They weren't going to leave their wives, but they all wanted an emotional connection. They wanted to talk every day on text. They weren't interested in casual sex at all. Wow. And the women, when I was a guy, the women that contacted me, they were totally into sex. That's all they wanted. They wanted like 50 Shades of Grey sex. They just wanted to have sex after they put the kids on the bus. They didn't want to hear my problems. They all said, you have a wife for that. Don't tell me your problems with your job. I don't want to hear you complain. They were like, don't waste my time. Oh, so
that's fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I would have never thought.
That sounds like a fun research project too. But yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I would imagine, especially if you're dealing with talking to, women who are the caretakers and the mothers and playing all those roles. And they're like, I don't want to take on those roles. I just want some sex. I just want some good loving. And then, you have maybe if men if they're living in a life where they have more like, traditional societal roles there, that they're, being the provider and feeling disconnected from their partner who is the mother who's always busy. I mean, it all seems related.
What can we learn from that though? That's like where people really need to look inward and pay attention to their relationships and nurture those.
Or get your needs met elsewhere. If it's part of your agreement, make an agreement.
Part of your agreement.
Yeah, make agreements to get needs met elsewhere instead of just doing it on the side. And I don't want to shame people who are having affairs. I also don't, and I'm not condoning. I like, hey, everyone go have an affair. I just like to open up the idea that we don't have to live in the shadows if we don't want to. It can eat people up inside.
Right.
And I was just thinking while we were talking about this Ashley Madison conversation. I mean, I have probably 3 or 4 girlfriends that I can think of right now that are in relationships with married men, at least. And I don't know, I've never asked for the details, but I do know that most of them are. And I don't know if all of them are completely transparent with their wives about it. That's why go ahead and have an affair. Just make your own rules. Talk about it with your spouse. And if it's something that you absolutely can't, then I guess, I don't know. What advice do you give to those people that are unhappy, don't feel like there's a way out, and are having an affair or want to have an affair? Is your advice get out of the relationship, talk to them about it, or pursue it and see what happens? Hopefully it doesn't blow up in your face.
Well, first of all, I would caution women because a lot of times it does blow up in their face and sometimes it gets violent. So I just want to be careful that if women are listening, that they're not in a situation where they're going to get hurt. But I think that also, if you're going to have an affair or if you're in an affair, you have to decide, number one, should you or should you not tell your partner? And that really is determined by whether or not disclosing is for you or for them. You don't want to make your partner your confessor because it makes you feel better. So you have to decide, is honesty and self-disclosure really because I just need to confess to someone because I feel so guilty and now I'm going to feel better, but your partner's going to be traumatized for life? Or is telling a way to be transparent and honest because it's time to, move the relationship to a different level, and you can't really move on unless that really happens. So that might be something you need to decide with a therapist. Sometimes it's hard to make that decision on your own. And but number 2, before you have an affair, you got to really think about, am I looking for someone else or looking to be someone else? And can you be that person in your marriage? If you can't, are you blaming your partner for that? It's kind of like saying, oh, my wife is not into that. She would never let me do that. She doesn't like that kind of sex. And like, are you sure? Like, have you asked her? Sometimes we get so shut down and we lack curiosity about our partner. We go, oh, I totally know who they are. Well, maybe you don't. And that's when we stop falling in love with them. That passion goes away because we think we know someone. We put them in a box. That's how we fall in love. We become curious. Like, who are you? I'm so interested in you. And aren't you intriguing? And that's how affairs start. But maybe going back to your partner, I wrote this other book, Getting the Sex You Want, before the new monogamy. And it's all about like going to your partner and asking them, tell me about your fantasies. Tell me what you're into. Let's have that conversation first and see if your partner can be your affair partner. Like, see if we can bring some of that energy, that Eros energy into the relationship before it gets split off outside.
Is that when you play strangers and meet at a bar and pretend like you never met before? And I actually did this with my ex-partner once. I mean, it wasn't called playing strangers, but we
Russian spy.
No, it was not a Russian spy, but we went out to dinner and just said, all right, let's pretend like we've never had a conversation with each other before and we're getting to know each other here. And it was really interesting. I wouldn't say that it made it like really sexy and all of a sudden we wanted to go home and fuck each other. But I mean, we did, but it didn't heighten that. But it did feed into that part of what's it like if we get really curious about who this person is today, even though I've known them for 5 years or whatever that is. Maybe, and what questions would I ask them? And then I like that. Like, then maybe I can pretend like, we can pretend like we're dating and get inquisitive, and we might discover that there's like a whole another being in there, and all the stories I had in my head about who they are very different than what's true. Such insightful information. We're running out of time. How can people, so you named 3 books here. Will you remind our listeners about the names of the books, where people can find them, your website, how people can work with you? I don't know if you're a therapist still, right? So you work with people, if you do it online, et cetera, in person.
Yeah, so I do couples intensives, which are workshops just for a couple. And then I do retreats for couples, which are in usually like nice destination places. And then I also see couples online, so Skype or phone. So you can get in touch with me at drtammynelson.com, drtammynelson.com. You can also find my books at my website or on Amazon. There's a book, Getting the Sex You Want, or The New Monogamy, or my new one, When You're the One Who Cheats. And if your listeners email me or go through my website and tell me that they heard me on this podcast, I'll send them a free ebook.
Oh, take advantage of that, everyone. So it is on your website. So that's Dr. Tammy, Tammy Nelson.com. You get free stuff. Go get on there.
I've read Sex at Dawn before, and Esther Perel, a lot of her stuff is amazing too. And I think that just speaking with you today was so enlightening. You have such great info, Dr. Tammy Nelson. I really appreciate you taking the time and spending it with us shameless sex peeps over here, and my pooch who's been sleeping the whole time.
Thanks. You guys are great. You're fabulous. And I'm happy to send you and all your listeners like an ebook on like how to talk about your monogamy, like questions for your new monogamy agreement.
Ooh, that would be wonderful. I would love that. Amy's newly single, so
Ooh, this is the time to do that.
Oh yeah.
You can bring it to your first date and say, okay, answer these questions.
Oh, my first dates are getting a lot. I'm like, I'm bringing all of my high maintenance stuff. I'm like, here's all my stuff. If you're interested, we can talk, but these are the deal breakers. Like,
initial here, sign this.
And then can you sick me on them too after that?
And then you got to go get approved by April, and then you got to get approved by Dr. Tammy, and then we
give a blood sample and a fitness tube.
And then now all of a sudden I'm 80 and alone. now I'm into it. But yeah, no, I love it. This is a great time. I am in that place of rewriting my personal contract for myself, and whomever it is that I start dating or get in relationships with, that will be an entirely different contract than it ever has been.
What a fun time. Perfect time.
I want to hang out with you more often, Tammy. You are so fun. Thanks again.
With you guys too.
And before we say goodbye completely, I want to just tell our listeners one last thing. Check out Margins Wine. She's got a bunch of new releases. Megan Bell, if you don't know why we love it so much, you can go to marginswine.com and check it out. Just sign up for her newsletter because she does a lot of really quick, beautiful releases, small boutique wine. You're going to love it. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in every Tuesday. We love you. Be good of us. 5 stars on iTunes. You get a free ebook from Tammy Nelson.
Excellent.
You still got to go to her website to get that.
Yeah, you do.
I'll take both though.
I'm just bribing people now for iTunes 5-star reviews.
That's okay. Totally agree. They should definitely do that.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next Tuesday. Ciao for now.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.